In section 2.1.RA-6 interactive assignment, a phlebotomist draws the blood of a random sample of 50 patients and determines their blood types as shown. We're going to complete parts A and B. First thing we need to do is we want to draw a frequency bar graph. In order to do that, we're going to have to create a frequency distribution, which lists each category of data and the number of occurrences or frequency for each category of data. Now we can either use technology or by hand. Okay, so we can use technology if we wanted to be able to do that. So let's go ahead and create the frequency distribution using technology. So I'm going to go ahead and then select the upper right hand corner of the data table. We want to be able to open this up in StatCrunch, so that's what we're going to do. And now that we have that open, okay, we have our data that's in here, and then under the column it says variable 1. Now, just so that we can know how to edit this, because you'll have to do this for a future project, we're going to go ahead and then highlight that and change that to blood type, so that we know that that's what the column's going to be called now. Okay, so now we can do this by hand, which we would have done in a previous exercise, but let's go ahead and find out what the frequency bar graph looks like. So if I select stat and then go to tables and then select frequency, and then I'm going to select the column which is blood type, and then what we want is we want the frequency selected, and then if you select compute, it's automatically going to generate the frequency for the blood type. And so therefore there's our information for the blood type. So we have our blood type and then the frequency which matches our solution here. Now, we then want to be able to create a frequency bar graph constructed by labeling each category of data on either the horizontal or vertical axis and the frequency of the category on the other axis. Now, rectangles of equal width are drawn for each category, and the height of each rectangle represents the categories of frequency. So here's the frequency bar graph. We're going to show you how to do that on StatCrunch. So what we want to do is we're going to select graph, and then we're going to select bar plot, and then we're going to use data. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select the blood type into the category, and then we know that it has a split bars, and then we're looking at the frequency. And so now all we have to do, if we wanted to, we can select and display the value above the bar. We can go ahead and do that just so that we can see what that looks like. And then select compute. So now if you notice here, we have A, which goes all the way up to 16. We have AB, which is 2. B goes to 9. And then O goes to 23. So there's our bar graph. Now we don't have the color here, scheme in here, but it definitely represents the same frequency bar graph. Okay, now the next question says draw a relative frequency bar graph. Now again, I showed you here how you can do it by hand. We can go ahead and then take each particular blood type and divide it by the total amount of blood type to get the relative frequency or the proportion. But if we want to do this quicker, we can go ahead and do this on StatCrunch. So the data is still here on StatCrunch. Now we're going to go ahead and select stat, and then we're going to go to tables, and then we're going to select frequency. Okay, now we're going to select the column again, which is blood type. And then instead of selecting frequency this time, we want the relative frequency so that it matches this table here. So when I select compute, you're going to see here that we have, again, the blood type, and now we have the relative frequency for each particular item. So we have 0.32, 0.04, 0.18, and 0.46. So the next thing we want to do is now we want to be able to create a relative frequency bar graph. And so how we're going to go about that is we're going to do the same thing here as we did for the frequency bar graph. So we're going to select graph, we're going to go to bar plot with data. We're going to go ahead and select the column for blood type. You don't need to put anything for the where or the group by. Just need to make sure the grouping options are as split bars. And then instead of having the frequency, we're going to go ahead and select relative frequency. And then everything else we can leave as it is. If we want to display the value above the bar, we can go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to select compute. And then from here you can see that it matches our relative frequency bar graph.